Have you ever found yourself in that tense exchange with a high-conflict individual where you muster up the bravery to voice your pain, only to have them launch into an interrogation instead of showing any empathy? It might occur during a simple moment in the kitchen or through a heated late-night message. Rather than pausing to consider your feelings, they flip the script, questioning your every word and distorting what you said. If you've experienced being labeled as overly sensitive just when your limits have been tested, then stick with me here. Experts in psychology point out that many of us are approaching these situations with a mistaken assumption. We enter believing it's a balanced disagreement between equals who both want resolution. In reality, it's what professionals call an asymmetrical conflict. One side is seeking understanding and emotional connection, while the other is focused purely on maintaining dominance and power. Once this distinction clicks, it completely transforms how you navigate these interactions. People who are highly empathetic often respond by pouring in even more details, reasoning, and affection, hoping to bridge the gap. What feels like an attempt to bring understanding to them often acts as additional energy that keeps their behavior going. That's why, in this discussion, we're going to construct an entirely fresh approach grounded in principles from behavioral psychology. At its core, this approach rests on two essential pillars: creating distance and employing careful planning. By detachment, I mean pulling back your emotional investment so you're not constantly feeding the dynamic. Strategy involves moving away from reacting spontaneously and instead following a deliberate plan. Let's dive into the initial technique. At the heart of it, these challenging personalities depend on what we call emotional supply. Things like your frustration, your emotional outbursts, or lengthy explanations. It's comparable to the classic conditioning experiment with Pavlov's dogs. They provoke a response, you deliver it, and that gives them a sense of satisfaction and reinforces their sense of power. Breaking this pattern requires something known as the gray rock technique. Originally introduced by an online writer named Schuyler, it involves complete emotional withdrawal. This draws from the idea in psychology called extinction, where withholding reinforcement causes the unwanted behavior to diminish over time. The goal is to make yourself about as engaging as an ordinary stone, neutral, unresponsive, and unstimulating. By doing so, you interrupt their cycle of getting that dopamine hit from your reactions. The exchange no longer provides them with any emotional payoff. In practice, it might look like this. If they accuse you of being overly dramatic, you respond with a simple, okay. When they claim that others see you as unstable, reply with, I hear what you're saying. If they insist you explain yourself immediately, you can say something like, I'm not going into that right now. Remember, the aim isn't to come out on top in the discussion, but to deprive it of the fuel it needs to continue. However, there's an important heads up I must share. As you begin implementing this, expect them not to back down right away. In fact, things may intensify at first. Psychologists describe this phenomenon as an extinction burst. Picture a vending machine that fails to dispense your drink. You might hit the buttons more forcefully or even rocket in frustration. Similarly, when your reactions stop, they ramp up efforts to elicit one. It's crucial to stay consistent during these moments. Giving in at that point only teaches them that more intense pressure will eventually break through. That said, the gray rock approach may not suit every scenario. For instance, if you're sharing parenting duties or collaborating professionally, appearing too detached could work against you in the eyes of others. This is where the yellow rock variation proves useful. Developed by experts for use in demanding legal or co-parenting contexts, it combines the emotional neutrality of gray rock with courteous professional language. You address only the practical matters while leaving out any personal feelings. Suppose they send a message accusing you of being self-centered and uncaring about the group. A yellow rock reply could be, Hello, thank you for your message. Just a reminder that the deadline for the project is Tuesday by 3 p.m. Could you please let me know if you have the necessary documents ready? Regards. You ignore the personal jabs and stick strictly to the facts at hand. This method has a clever advantage when other people are involved. Those who manipulate situations often try to portray your non-responsiveness as uncooperativeness to colleagues, family, or authorities. With Yellow Rock, your communications come across as composed, polite, and solution-oriented, which undercuts their attempts to paint you negatively. On the surface, you're the picture of reasonableness, yet internally, you're offering zero emotional engagement. But what happens when completely distancing isn't an option, like when it's a family member or parent? In such situations, Gray Rock might feel too cold or conflicting with your values. Here we turn to compassionate detachment. Try picturing a transparent barrier separating you during your encounters. You remain aware of their presence and words, but their emotional charges bounce off this barrier without affecting your inner state. To support this mentally, adjust the question you ask yourself internally. Move away from wondering, why are they targeting me? Toward pondering, how difficult must it be to live with a mindset that constantly seeks this level of dominance? This subtle shift helps your brain move from a self-referential thinking pattern to a more objective, problem-solving one. A word of caution, particularly if you're someone who picks up on emotions intensely, this perspective isn't a call to try rescuing or healing them. The barrier serves a dual purpose, shielding you from their negativity while also preventing your natural impulse to fix things. It helps you recognize that you're observing someone whose internal mechanisms are malfunctioning in ways that empathy alone can't repair. You can't instill genuine connection into a pattern that's wired for control. This mental boundary promotes both your protection and a grounded outlook. Next, I'd like to address a common pitfall that ensnares most caring individuals, the tendency known as JD, standing for justify, argue, defend, and explain. Our natural reaction when misunderstood is to provide more details to clear things up. Yet in interactions with high conflict types, these efforts don't foster clarity. They supply more material for attacks. To counter this, we establish a strong boundary. Going forward, make a commitment to avoid justifying your actions, arguing points, defending yourself, or offering explanations. For example, responding with, "I didn't intend any harm. I was exhausted from working extra hours," opens the door for them to criticize your motives or your job. In place of that, adopt the BIFF method, created by Bill Eddy from the High Conflict Institute. BIFF stands for brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Consider this scenario. They message you saying, "I can't believe what you did. That's awful." An effective BIFF reply might be, "Hi there, I won't be addressing this via messages. If there's something specific about our schedule you'd like to discuss, I'm here to help. Thank you." It's short, clearly states your limit, maintains a polite tone with greetings and thanks, and decisively ends the emotional spiral, directing toward productivity or closure. Ultimately, safeguarding your sense of what's real is vital. One of the most harmful tactics these individuals use is gaslighting, where they alter past events so skillfully that you begin questioning your own perceptions and memory. To combat this, turn yourself into a careful record keeper. Following any significant exchange, spend just a minute noting down objective details, the date, time, and precise statements made. This creates an impartial reference point. When they later deny saying something, you can refer to your notes instead of relying solely on recollection. For those highly attuned to subtle cues, there's an additional resource: listening to your body's signals. Gaslighting succeeds partly because the words used can seem logical or kind on the surface. They may express love or concern, but if your physical sensations tell a different story, perhaps a constricted feeling in your chest, nausea, or overwhelming fatigue, pay attention to that. Your body's wisdom is picking up on underlying intentions that contradict the pleasant exterior. In cases of discrepancy between spoken words and internal sensations, trust your physiological response. Interacting with a high-conflict person isn't a matter of emerging victorious from debates, as that outcome is rarely possible. Instead, it's about gradually taking back the mental real estate they've claimed. The overarching aim is emotional separation. Through Gray Rock, you withdraw the supply they crave. BIFF allows you to step back from their turbulent style of interaction. Documentation helps you maintain clarity separate from their version of events. Over time, this process liberates you, enabling you to reconnect with your authentic self. I understand that grasping these ideas in theory comes easier than applying them in the heat of the moment. To bridge that gap, I've put together a complimentary PDF guide titled The Defense Protocol. It features practical templates inspired by research on implementation intentions in cognitive science. These are straightforward fill-in formats where you prepare responses in advance. If they say or do X, then I will respond with Y. I suggest downloading it, printing a copy, and filling it out by hand. Studies indicate that this kind of preparation and visualization can significantly lower anxiety levels when challenges arise. By deciding your approach beforehand, you equip your mind to respond thoughtfully rather than instinctively during tense times. Grab it for free via the link below in the description. My hope is that exploring these strategies has offered you some meaningful insight or comfort today. If this resonates, I'd love to hear your personal experiences in the comments or any suggestions for future topics. Simply sharing your story can be an empowering move toward healing. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the mind. Looking forward to connecting again soon.